Humans don't just wake up powerful in Marvel, they're burned, experimented on, rewritten, or flat out broken by the universe. From radiation accidents to divine blessings, there are very specific ways ordinary people cross the line into something more. But here's the catch. Each path comes with a cost, and some are far worse than others. Let's break down every way humans gain powers in Marvel and what it really takes to survive them. Radiation. This is one of the earliest and messiest ways humans gain powers in Marvel. This usually happens when a human is exposed to an extreme energy source that alters their biology instead of killing them outright. One of the best examples is Bruce Banner, who was exposed to gamma radiation, creating the Hulk as we know him today. One of the most interesting things about this kind of power-up is that it can be transferred too. Thanks to a blood transfusion, Bruce's cousin, Jennifer Walters, was able to become She-Hulk, and even his son Scar seems to have inherited his Hulk-like traits. Some other examples are Peter Parker and Matt Murdock. In Peter's case, his Spidey powers come from a radioactive spider bite. Similarly, Matt Murdock's run-in with radioactive chemicals gave him his radar sense. You know his whole monologue about piecing together things like scent, vibrations in the air, taste, etc. to sort of form a mental picture? That's his radar sense. It's why he can tell when you're lying.
I can't see, not like everyone else, but I can feel. Things like balance, direction, micro changes in air density, vibrations, blankets of temperature variations. Mix all that with what I hear, subtle smells. All of the fragments form a sort of impressionistic painting.
Radiation can affect individuals in incredibly different ways, and it's one of the most unpredictable power-ups in the MCU that we see. Magic. In Marvel, magic is built on a single core idea. Reality itself can be reshaped by drawing power from what already exists, either from within the sorcerer, from the universe around them, or from other dimensions entirely. From that idea, all magic breaks down into three main categories: personal energies, universal energies, and dimensional energies. Personal energies come directly from the sorcerer's own life force. This type of magic is closely tied to the mind and can power abilities like astral projection, telekinesis, hypnotism, and telepathy. But there's a catch. Relying too heavily on personal energy can literally drain a sorcerer to death. That's why most practitioners train themselves to supplement it with external power. At places like Kunlun, students learn to harness qi, an internal force that strengthens both mind and body, as we see with Danny Rand, aka the Iron Fist. Universal energies are drawn from the natural power of a sorcerer's home dimension. These are the energies most commonly seen in combat. These are used to conjure shields, weapons, portals, and energy constructs. Universal spells often require precise hand movements, spoken words, or both, functioning almost like activation commands. These energies can even be used by astral forms, as long as they're anchored to a physical object or being, something the Ancient One demonstrated by sending Stephen Strange's consciousness outside of his body through astral projection.
Through you! What did you just do to me?
Dimensional energies are the most dangerous and powerful. They come from other planes of existence and are often granted by extra-dimensional beings. Sorcerers typically access them through rituals, bargains, or promises, sometimes offering loyalty or access to their world in return. Caecilius and his followers, for example, pledged Earth to Dormammu in exchange for immortality and power.
You will now receive the power to destroy the one who betrayed us.
However, not all dimensional magic requires consent. The Ancient One secretly siphoned energy from the Dark Dimension for centuries without Dormammu's knowledge, proving that such power can be stolen as well as given.
I've hated drawing power from the Dark Dimension. But as you well know, sometimes one must break the rules in order to serve the greater good.
Most magic users, especially the masters of the mystic arts, rely on spell casting, which the Ancient One compares to programming. There's some variety, though. Asgardian sorcerers rely mostly on concentration or staves in order to use their magic, and a great example is Loki, Odin, and Frigga. Other notable users that are different from the Mystic Arts users are Wanda Maximoff, a Chaos Magic user, and Agatha Harkness. As we go into the advanced users of magic, you start to see a lot more personalization, with each user having a specialized way of using magic. Mystical artifacts. Some of the most powerful beings in Marvel gained their powers through mystical objects. One of the best examples of this is the Infinity Stones. Each stone embodies a fundamental aspect of the universe: space, time, power, reality, mind, and soul. Individually, they already bend physics. Together, they grant near-total control over existence itself. When Thanos assembles all 6 into the Infinity Gauntlet, he doesn't gain new skills so much as absolute authority. With a single snap, he rewrites reality on a universal scale, something no mortal body, magic user, or enhanced individual could ever do alone. But that's a really extreme example. Another one is the Necro Sword. Wielded by Gore, the God Butcherer, this weapon is incredibly ancient, and it possesses the ability to slay gods while also corrupting its own wielder. Strangely, it restores itself if you break it. This weapon's actually sentient. It called out to Gore, leading him towards it, and even floated into his hand and empowered him.
The sword chose you. You are now cursed.
Funny.
Then you have things like the Darkhold, an evil book of spells filled with dark magic. One of the Darkhold's most notorious capabilities is the spell-based technique called dreamwalking, which allows a sorcerer to transfer their consciousness into alternate versions of themselves across the multiverse, a power Scarlet Witch abused by inhabiting and controlling her Earth 838 counterpart. The knowledge within its pages corrupts the user over time, creating a heavy toll on the user's mind and soul, driving them toward obsession and tragedy as they harness increasingly dangerous magic. Another example is the Ten Rings. Worn by Wenwu and later Shang-Chi, are ancient weapons of unknown origin that bond to their user. They dramatically extend lifespan, grant immense strength, energy projection, and control over kinetic force. Unlike most artifacts, the rings don't dominate the user's mind, but they respond strongly to their user's individual wills. Mutants. Mutants are humans who are born with a genetic anomaly known as the X gene, which activates naturally, usually during puberty or moments of intense stress. Unlike most powered individuals in Marvel, mutants tend to have latent powers from birth. Of course, the most famous example is the X-Men, with Professor X at its center. Charles Xavier is one of the most powerful telepaths on Earth. He can read minds, project thoughts, create illusions, erase memories, and mentally communicate across vast distances. Another A-list mutant is Wolverine. His mutations are physical rather than psychic. Wolverine has accelerated healing, enhanced senses, and retractable metal claws bonded to his skeleton. His mutation makes him nearly impossible to kill, allowing him to survive injuries that would instantly kill a normal human. Gotcha! Mutants tend to have even more variety than magic users. There really is no telling what kind of power you'll end up with. Quicksilver gets super speed, but Storm gets to control the weather on a massive scale, almost like Thor does. And then there's Magneto, who can control things outside of his body, such as magnetic fields and metal. Some mutations can make life extremely hard for mutants because they're physical alterations to their body, such as Quill and Blob. The mutants have a very difficult life both in the comics and the movies, as they're a very targeted minority. Serums. In the MCU, these are chemical formulas that can enhance individuals to incredible degrees. The cornerstone of this whole concept is the Super Soldier Serum, originally developed by Dr. Abraham Erskine during World War II. His perfected formula, activated with Vita rays, transformed frail Steve Rogers into Captain America, enhancing his strength, speed, endurance, healing, and mental resilience to the peak of human potential. But not every version worked so cleanly. Bucky Barnes was injected with a Hydra variant of the serum while held captive in World War II. It kept him alive and gave him enhanced durability and strength, but without the stabilizing Vita Ray process that made Rogers successful. When Bucky fell from a train and survived, it was the serum that kept him breathing, even though he lost an arm in the process.
The procedure has already started.
Long before Rogers, an early prototype of the serum was tested on Johann Schmidt, who would become the Red Skull. That flawed variant burned away the skin on his face and twisted his physiology. Fortunately for him, it did come with the usual physical boosts and enhanced intelligence. The quest to recreate the serum continued long after World War II. Perhaps most notoriously, when the US military gave a recreated serum to Emil Blonsky. This, plus a mix of gamma-irradiated blood, turned him into the Abomination, which is what we saw in the 2008 Hulk. He was actually capable of going toe-to-toe with the Hulk in that film, which is a testament to just how potent these serums can be. Technology. Another way science has improved humans beyond their natural potential is through advanced technology. It starts with Iron Man. Tony Stark's arc reactor was first made to keep shrapnel out of his heart, but it evolved into a near-limitless power source. It fuels all the things you see him doing: his flight systems, repulsors, life supports, all of it. Stark makes many variants of the original Iron Man suit, with notable ones being the Hulkbuster we saw in Age of Ultron. He enhances Peter's suit the same way. The Stark suit he gets in Homecoming has enhanced web functions, AI-assisted targeting, reconnaissance drones, and even an instant kill mode. The Iron Spider suit takes it a step further, giving him nanotech armor and mechanical spider arms for mobility and combat.
Activate instant kill!
Then we have Hank Pym's discovery of Pym particles, which allow mass and size to be altered but without any loss of strength. Ever wonder how Ant-Man left hooks a Leviathan to the ground in Endgame? This is how. Their suits let them control their size freely. The weirdest part? Scott retains all his usual strength even when he's the size of an ant, which gives him insane combat potential. He also gets to have higher durability because of his increased density when he's super small. But most importantly, he can control ants through the EMP communication device inside his suit's helmet, which is like a top 10 party trick. Vulture is a direct result of salvaged alien technology left behind after the Battle of New York. Adrian Toomes reverse engineers Chitauri weapons into flight rigs, gravity-defying wings, plasma cutters, and energy cannons. We also see a Hydra research base repurposing Chitauri tech in Age of Ultron, so people get very crafty with tech in the MCU. Some of the more recent uses of technology have been Sam Wilson's EX-07 Falcon suit, which turns him into a one-man aerial unit, complete with missile systems, jet-assisted flight, and all the speed and maneuverability you would imagine with metal wings. There are also things like partial enhancements. A great display of this is Bucky Barnes' vibranium arm, which gives him an insane amount of punching power. Throughout the MCU, tech has been one of the best ways for normal people to still be useful. If you're not an Asgardian, a Gamma Giant, some mythical wizard or alien, then your next best bet is some handy technology, alien or not. Even the Wakandan army took Thanos on with nothing but good tech and weapons. Alien symbiotes. You might have heard the phrase symbiote before. These are parasites from another planet that rely on bonding with specific hosts in order to grant powers. They don't work like suits or tools, and they're fully sentient. In the comics, they usually originate from the planet Clintar. The most famous uses of a symbiote have to be either venom. Thanks to the bonding, Eddie Brock gets massive upgrades to their physical strength, speed, reflexes, durability, and healing. But it doesn't end there. The symbiote itself can alter its own shape, sometimes using this ability to generate organic weapons like tendrils or shields. One of the most interesting things about symbiotes is that they're all connected to one central network. This hive mind lets each symbiote share memories and information up to a certain degree. For example, in Spider-Man 3, the reason Eddie Brock's powers seem similar to Spider-Man's is that the symbiote is drawing from its past experience with Peter Parker. This also manages to make Venom immune to Peter's spider sense, which is part of what makes Venom so dangerous. Symbiotes also influence their hosts and alter their personalities. With Peter, we see this happen progressively. As he uses the black suit more and more, he becomes very confrontational, acting like a complete jerk, almost as if he's on a power trip. Eddie Brock completely surrendered himself to the same symbiote. The power boost from these is insane. For reference, Eddie Brock was just a normal human, and after getting the symbiote, in both the movies and the comics, he's able to match Spider-Man blow for blow and overpower him easily. The same Spider-Man who has to hold his punches back all the time so he doesn't kill people. Carnage's abilities surpass Venom's in brutality and precision. He can generate weapons directly from his body without needing mass or preparation, forming blades, axes, spikes, and projectiles instantly. His control over symbiote matter is so refined that he can reshape himself mid-combat, adapting to threats in real time. Where Venom fights like a brawler, Carnage fights like a living weapon system. Divine empowerment. Some characters in the MCU are blessed by the divine, and the Asgardian gods are the clearest example we have. Gods such as Thor, Odin, and Hela were all born with their mystic powers. That isn't to say they didn't train extensively. Each of them spent centuries honing their abilities to what we see on screen, but they always had the potential within them. It seems each god has a different set of powers. Odin is a master of magic and a primary user of the Odin Force, a vast cosmic energy tied to his own life force that powers Asgard and the spear Gungnir. It's the same source of power Thor draws from, too. Meanwhile, Thor is the god of thunder. Feats like summoning lightning and controlling storms are nothing to him, as he has a natural control over the element of lightning. Besides that, Thor is physically one of the strongest beings in the MCU, having gone up against Thanos and the Hulk while fully holding his own. In the case of Thanos, if he had gone for the head, he may have even been able to kill the Mad Titan. Hela, the goddess of death, is also tied to Asgard. She grows stronger and stronger the more time she spends on Asgard, and we see her manifesting weapons from nothing, regenerating almost instantly, and overwhelming even Thor and Loki with ease. Together, Hela and Odin used their powers in many military conquests across the 9 realms, without anyone being able to stand in their way. But there are more sources of divine power than just Asgard. In Moon Knight, Mark Spector becomes the avatar of the Egyptian god Khonshu, gaining supernatural strength, enhanced durability, accelerated healing, and heightened combat ability. Mark's power isn't permanent. It flows through him only while he serves as Khonshu's chosen representative. The suit itself responds instantly, forming around him as a physical expression of divine will rather than technology. When Khonshu withdraws his favor, the power disappears just as quickly. A similar form of God-granted power exists in Wakanda's spiritual tradition. While not gods in the same sense as Asgardians, Bast, the panther goddess, empowers Wakanda's kings through ritual and faith. By ingesting the heart-shaped herb, Black Panther gains enhanced strength, reflexes, speed, and resilience, abilities believed to be blessings of Bast herself. The power is both physical and spiritual, linking the Black Panther to Wakanda's ancestral plane. Cosmic exposure. Cosmic exposure is our last power source, and it's basically what happens when living beings are exposed to cosmic radiation that can completely transform their DNA. For Carol Danvers, it happens during a routine test flight gone catastrophically wrong. When the experimental lightspeed engine explodes, Danvers is caught at ground zero and absorbs the full force of the energy surge. That engine was powered by the Tesseract, which we later find out is the Infinity Stone, and instead of killing her, its cosmic radiation fuses with her DNA. From that moment on, Carol can generate and absorb vast amounts of energy, fly at extreme speeds, survive in space, and unleash devastating photon blasts. This is a permanent transformation. Her powers are simply a part of her now. The same thing happens to the Fantastic Four. During a space mission, the team is bombarded by intense cosmic radiation. The exposure alters each of them differently, unlocking abilities that reflect how their bodies and minds adapt to the same event. Elasticity, invisibility, fire manipulation, and superhuman strength all emerge from a single cosmic accident. Despite being exposed to the same source, the Fantastic Four each got vastly different sources of power. The Thing, for example, had a much more permanent transformation, whereas Reed and Sue Storm retained their human appearance. So that's Marvel power in a nutshell. Radiation cooks you, magic rewrites you, tech upgrades you, artifacts own you, and cosmic energy flips a coin with your DNA. Because in the MCU, nobody gets power for free, they just pay in different ways.